All right, welcome back everyone. Today I got the Super Cub here, 1912 I've been working on, and I already did a video on the starter solenoid or the starter relay, however you want to say it. Tested that, but I'm going to go through a few things here on if you have one of these Cub Cadets, and a lot of these same similarities that I'm doing works on other brands of garden tractors, but it just happens to be the one I'm working on today is a Cub Cadet. So common problem, you'll go to start it and nothing. I do have the foot pedal depressed, and I can jump the solenoid right here and the tractor will start. So I know there has to be a reason either coming from the key switch itself, either a seat switch, PTO switch, foot pedal, that kind of thing. Now the other day when I did start going through this and doing some, testing a few things to see what it was, and I did, like I said, do the starter relay. I did get a copy of the wiring diagram of a 1912, and you can look these up for all different kinds of tractors. Just look it up online, the wiring diagram, and it sort of helps show the wires where they go through the switches. So I did trace back from the solenoid and found, the safety switches that it does go through. So it can help you diagnose this easier than trying to pull all these wires out. Now, on this particular one, when I purchased it, I started going through here, and you can see through here, someone added another PTO switch on this side, and the PTO switch up here, it's all rewired. Like someone come off with wires and they're all the same color. So this is the kind of problem you run into when you buy these tractors. People get in here and they, rewire things, either switches go bad and stuff, and a lot of times it's hard to, track down which wire is what. So this doesn't even have the rear PTO option on a 1912. That was a 14, so I'm not really sure why there's two PTO switches on here. But anyways, I'm going to go through the just process here, showing you guys easy way to detect to find out why your tractor's not starting. All right, so the first things you want to test is your the starting solenoid or relay, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. And them generally go out, but it's not always the case. And for the first test, you put a lead to the positive end of the battery, and right in there, that's where the ignition switch would come back to start it. Now, like I said, you don't have to have the key on unless you'd want to start the tractor to run it. But when I tap this, see, the tractor starts. So that tells me right there that that relay's good, because that's where it'd be getting its power to power it. So that would eliminate the relay. Now to see if we're getting power from there to the ignition switch, the easiest way to do that would be to ground your test light out on the battery would be good. And for this process, you'll have to turn the key on with the light on there, and I'll show you that here in a second. All right, with my test light to the negative end of the battery, I'm going to touch that on that wire, and then you reach over to the ignition switch and you go turn it on, which I'm trying to start the tractor, and that tells me that I'm not getting no power to the starter relay. So now we have to start figuring out and troubleshooting why we're not getting power to that. All right, so since I'm back here at the relay, the next thing I would do is check the seat switch, which this one's missing, and they'd already lined that one together. I believe on a Cub Cadet, I'd have to look at that wiring diagram again. I believe the seat switch is only hooked to the PTO, not the actual to start the tractor. I believe you can start these with not sitting on the seat, but it's still something that I would check and try to make sure. If you think it's a faulty switch, you could just go ahead and put a lead on each one of these wires to temporarily, jump it to see. And if that don't work, then you can go ahead and put the seat switch back and we'll go from there. All right, so once you start the solenoid and you start working your way back, next good thing to check would be the ignition switch itself to see if you're getting power. Right there, there's the red wire. That's the hot wire. I'm going to stick my test light in there. I have no power now, but when I go to turn the key on and I hit the start position, I am getting power out of the key switch to there. So that eliminates the ignition switch, and we know that's good. So now we just got to keep tracing around. All right, a few other things you can check on one of these, especially a Cub Cadet, the 82 series. They do have a center switch here for your, it's just a micro switch for the neutral position, which this one here is either broke off or doesn't work, but I did jump this as well, and I determined that by putting a jumper lead, I undid this and jumped it and turned the key on and still had nothing. So I came up short there, but that's always something to check. Now to test the PTO switches, get this down in here, you ground out your test light. I'm gonna go ahead and put my test light in the PTO switch in the spot and turn it on. So by turning that PTO switch on and off with the key on, I've determined that the PTO switch is not stuck. So some of these, if the PTO switch sticks or something, it will, let you know that it won't start for that. So then I'm gonna go over here and do the same thing with this PTO switch over here. All right, so I came over to the other side to the other PTO switch, and earlier, like I said, someone had rewired this and put a bunch of wires in there. Why, I have no idea. So I did determine that this PTO switch wasn't stuck, but it was throwing me for a little off because I know you can't see this, but I gotta wedge this test light down in there to get contact on it so that I can hold the camera. But when I turn the PTO switch on, nothing works. But when I turn the other PTO switch on and then turn this one on, it'll light up. So that's with that one on. When I turn the other one off, I get nothing. So why someone wired this up for both PTO switches, or maybe it's just a wiring issue, I'm not real sure, but that at least tells me that that PTO switch there is not stuck, and it wouldn't matter if it is, because as long as that one's working, I'm good to go. So I started chasing wires around here, and I took off some electrical tape. Look at that. Like I said, I got some wiring things to do. I put my old test light on there, and then I tried to start it, and hey, look at that. So I'm getting power from the ignition switch to there. So far to here, I have power. So now I just got to keep tracing through here and seeing what's next. All right, so now I know I'm getting power to at least here, which leads me to believe there's another safety switch somewhere. Last resort, last thing I haven't checked was the foot pedal switch. Now, I couldn't get up underneath this one because it's pretty dirty and there is like a screen under there. So I did have to remove the tunnel cover to access it. And right in here is the foot pedal switch, and I found the culprit. What I think, this tab broke off. This is a common problem on the 82 series and these type of Cub Cadets. This sits right on here, and with the pedal depressed, it hits that switch, and after time from these, bending back and forth through the years, they snap off. So it's good to test the pedal switch anyway, and that was the last thing that I had to test. So let me go ahead and see if this was the problem. All right, so now that I can access it, and when you do this, you gotta be careful because you do have the drive shaft with the fan and moving parts in here. So all I'm gonna do is bump the starter. I'm not trying to start it. I'm gonna go ahead and push down on the foot pedal switch. So there we go. Traced it back to a faulty foot pedal switch. So I got some more of these. These are, you can replace these quite easily. I'm sure a lot of people probably bypass these switches, but it is a good thing to have that on there. So like I said, I got some more of these in the parts bin. I'll go ahead and put one of them on there and I should be good to go. All right, so I wanted to get you guys a close-up view. Right in there's that switch. Sometimes if it's easier, you can access these from the bottom, and if you didn't want to take the tunnel off to try it, you could pull the wires off from the bottom and use a jumper lead similar to this and jump them and try it that way. But it's just as easy to get up in here and test that. So you could test the switch that way too. Say this isn't broke off, You can pull the wires also and jump it just to make sure that the switch itself isn't faulty. All right, so that's it. One more thing I did want to throw in here, depending on the model and tractor that you have. Like I said, all brands are different. Always check fuses. On Cub Cadets, I believe it's just headlights and PTO fuses, but some models are different, and there might be a fuse up underneath here. So like I said, just a wiring diagram works best for this. It'll show you all your fuses in place, everything like that. And each tractor is different and, you know, unique for its own wiring diagram. So doing this test, I did have the fuel tank out of here on this tractor, and I didn't take it out really for this test. I did it mainly because I was flushing the tank out. It was pretty nasty and dirty and cleaning it. And since I had the tank out, it made getting in here very easy. And as you can see how greasy and nasty everything is down in there. Now that I got that seat switch or that foot pedal switch figured out, I'm gonna get this thing fired up, and it's gonna go up and get degreased and pressure washed off, and then I gotta start fixing some of that kind of stuff there I don't like. So hope this video helped. If you guys like to see more types of these videos on, you know, diagnosing things with tractors, go ahead and put in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching.